What are we talking about this morning?
Janet, I don't think there's anything that we don't talk about these days. We talk about teeth, bathroom habits, the struggles of aging as a woman. Let's see, what else have we talked about recently? We've both visually seen an autopsy of the female body, which was
On
absolutely,
on a video, on a video.
yeah, on a video, yeah, not in person. It was so interesting to see how the degenerative process on a woman's body, how it decreased the space between the vertebra and made the vertebra a triangle shape.
In the lower back,
Yes,
which
yes,
then led to the curvature up at the top of the
yes.
shoulders.
The dowager's hump.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and sometimes you can see exercises online to try to keep your muscles strong so that that doesn't
yeah.
progress.
I'll
But
tell you something funny.
sometimes the deterioration doesn't make a difference.
I'll tell you something funny though. When I went to the chiropractor this week, and I talked about it on my live, but I didn't go into great detail. Um, the little 20, he's not little, the 25-year-old male who is adjusting my back and Andy's back, um, physically fit, all that. And I'm sitting there thinking, you got to go face down or sunny side up. And I'm thinking, if I fall off this table, I outweigh him. So I don't know that he can get me up from the floor. I mean, you can't make that up, right?
Look, my friend told me recently that she went to some presentation, like a conference day about seniors,
Yeah.
and that we're at a certain level of frailty. And I was like, frailty? What are you talking about that for? We're young. And she said, no, even at this age, we're on a scale of a certain level of frailty,
We are.
which means what can you do easily, what can't you do easily. So, I don't get down up and down off the floor very often. It's too hard on my knees, or like it's an effort, right? And and that apparently registers you already on the scale, the fact that you can't crawl around on the floor and get up and down. And
Oh,
she said the goal at this age is to keep your current level of frailty stable and not have it decrease. And that a lot of keeping it stable is up to our own efforts and what we do physically day in, day out to look
yes.
after whether we can stretch and reach and
Yes.
be active and
Yes. 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 And this morning when we were talking, I couldn't help but laugh because we do a lot of the same things. We're not that far apart in age, but I'm gonna say that 50 to 70. Let's say 50 to 70 age group when I say this. We back up to the door casings to massage our own backs.
yeah.
Do you do that?
I do. I stand, I have archways or door casings, and I stand there and I ram the base of my scapula bone into the door casing to push it inward to get some kind of release from some,
Yes.
you know, bunch
Yes.
of crackly stuff in the under my shoulder blade.
Yes.
Um, and
Not to
then
me.
I'll stand there and pretend I'm swimming the front crawl, or I got
Yes.
lots of room around me, and I'll be stretching my arms all different directions, trying to get mobility going.
Yes, and not to mention, it used to be the chiropractor or the physical therapist would tell me to get a tennis ball and put the tennis ball between me and the wall of your house,
And you
okay?
can put it in a sock so that
That's
you,
right.
yeah.
Okay, but here's the struggles of that for me. Okay, first off, I can't go that far down to the floor because I've had a partial knee replacement.
Oh, he
So
wants you to
there's
put it
none
on
of
the
that.
floor.
Yeah, but there's none of that squatting all the way down like I used to could do. And the
Oh,
funny part is this: we saved our money to have our house painted, and I'm not about to scar up the wall. I'm just saying.
yeah.
I mean,
But if you had it in a sock,
yeah. So I had a patient this week who was a senior, let's say, and 90s. 90s, and not 90s like the year 1990, but she was in her 90s. And every time I moved the chair to sit her back a little bit, I was very cautious with handling her because, first off, she was a very sweet, kind person and she needed my care. And she would say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." I'd say, "Are you okay?" "What do you mean, am I okay? I'm 91. Everything hurts." And so I had a hard time, like, understanding verbally what she needed me to do and what she did not need for me to do, because I, as the hygienist, did not want to make her more uncomfortable in her own body. So the things that we start seeing as adults at this age, not that this age is old, because I don't consider myself as old, but you do, as women, start looking to other women and thinking, holy cow, like, if I live that long, then of course the joints are going to fail. Of course the bursa are going to be swollen. Of course they're going to be narrowed. Of course, of course, of course. And I just have to laugh about it, not at the 90-something-year-old woman, but at myself. I just have to laugh about it because the struggle is real. It is real.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that we didn't grow up talking about the
Right.
the specifics of the kinds of changes that would happen at this stage. So I go to therapy quite a bit, and I'm lucky because I've got good benefits. But when I was going into massage yesterday, I said to my massage therapist, the last few visits I've didn't know even what to name that was sore. So
Mhm.
I thought I was finally benefiting from the frequency of going. And then I went in
Right.
yesterday and I said, every single part of my body aches. And I
Yeah.
couldn't attribute it to weather because sometimes I think it's raining, that's why, or whatever. And she goes, "What did you do?" And I said, "I can't think of anything that I did differently." So in the end, I attributed it to the fact that I ate a bag of chips, like a family-sized bag of chips that I was treated to. Someone brought it to the house. I haven't had chips in a long time. And over the course of like 2.5 days, I ate the entire family-sized bag
Yeah.
of chips myself.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
my body is not used to that much salt. Salt
Yes.
leads to fluid retention. Also,
Yes.
on my diabetes, that's all this carb, and I wasn't exactly injecting insulin every time I had a snack, right? So
Right.
I bet you, and this is what my therapist said, if every part of your body is aching, something has caused you to be inflamed. You have inflammation everywhere. And
Yes.
and so I was like, okay, Janet, get back on track. You're eating the wrong way. You need to get your blood sugars under control. You need to get your sodium under control and drink lots of water and get back on the plan here. Yep.
Get back up on the
Yeah,
struggle bus.
she said so many of her clients, what they eat contributes to how they're feeling.
Yes, I call it the struggle bus, but the struggle bus is a real thing at this age because some days I'm not on the, well, I might be a passenger on the struggle bus, but I'm not at the front and center of the struggle bus. This week I've been the kid that talks too much on the bus and the bus driver sits him in the third seat to keep an eye on him. I've been that person because of my back issues and my spine issues. That will throw radiate pain in different spots, right? So this week it's been the scapula, and I've stretched and been on the heating pad, and you know, I've tried to do everything that I know under the sun to do at home to make that better. I've been to the chiropractor, all that. And this morning, to get started with my day, I thought, okay, I'm going to need some deep blue, which I got my husband to rub some deep blue on the scapula. And then I laid in the bed for 20 minutes on the heat just to get started because of the pain in the scapula area.
Hmm.
You and I both know from going to our doctors or whomever, osteopath or whatever that word is,
Physiotherapist, yep.
the physical therapist, chiropractor, that is radiating from the spine. It's not actually the scapula muscle that's giving you the problem.
Yeah.
Although,
Often with me, it's that the pec muscles right here, um, I'm
yes,
I'm rotating my shoulders inward, and these need to be stretched to sit
yes,
the shoulders back. And it
yes,
causes a lot of the alignment issues of my
yes,
chin being too far forward, and it needs to sit back, and those
yes,
shoulders need to be back, and that ends up causing the shoulder and upper back pain, which then
yes,
affects the lower back.
yes.
Ooh.
Preach, preach. I'm telling you,
Last week it
it's
was
an issue.
my patella, my kneecap. There was a
Yes,
really sore spot in the corner, about lower corner of my knee, and I touched it and I'd yelp. And I went to therapy. I said, "That's sore." And she touched around and felt around, and she said, "Your quad muscle on that leg is way too tight and it's
yes,
pulling your kneecap. So I need to loosen your quad muscle." And, if I could get in a better routine, I could loosen it myself by doing more stretching.
right.
And everything's at our fingertips, like all this stuff that you
Yes,
mentioned about the chair yoga or
yes,
gentle yoga, yoga for seniors. That's all available online, and you can get enough of it free. You don't have to pay anything. And then the other thing that I have that's easy is I have all the physiotherapy bands from the different times I've gone to physiotherapy, and
yes,
every color is a different tension. And there's a
yes,
whole series of sit in your leisurely, comfortable chair at night while you're watching television and stretch with these bands in different
yes.
ways to keep yourself in better shape. It's really good for diabetics as well. Like you don't have to be panting and sweating and jogging to
Right,
doing good things for
right,
your body.
right. The
Yeah.
other morning, it was so funny. Well, it's everything's funny to me. I just have to have humor about everything. So Monday before I went to work, I got up extra early because, of course, I had some pain and aches and that sort of thing. So when baby boy got up and came down the hallway, there I stood doing my poses of yoga and stretching while I'm watching TV and watching Dr. David Jeremiah. I'm in there stretching. The struggle is real, but I will say this on a serious note. If I get up earlier in the morning and do my stretches and do my devotion and maybe a little heat and some of that deep blue rub or whatever, it's like that,
Mhm.
muscle rub.
Yep.
I do feel better. Honest to God, I do feel better. And then when I come home from work, if I'll do kind of the same thing, heat and then the rub and then stretching, then I'll feel better the next morning. And you and I have talked about the um not struggles, but when you go to therapy, that sometimes it takes 3 to 4, sometimes a week for your muscles to adjust and you to actually feel better. But the
Mhm.
struggle is real getting to that point.
Yeah.
Okay. It
Yeah.
is,
It takes 2, 3 days to um sort of baby your body to not wreck what they did. And then, you're not supposed to go to another therapy for at least a week
exactly.
or whatever. And I find in the morning when I get up, if I don't have my shower in the morning, it's not as good because the heat of the water of the shower
Yeah.
relaxes everything that's not
Yeah.
feeling good. And yeah, it's kind of crazy all that stuff. And yet, yeah, like you said, we're on the young end of it all,
We
but
are.
we're aware enough that we could be taking some things into our own hands, whether
Yes.
it's our stretches or exercising. And they say nowadays that just going out in your driveway and walking for 5 minutes, you
Yes.
don't have to get out and do even a 20-minute. You could be doing that several times a day. I watch a woman who's in her 80s go up and down my hill at least 3 times a day, and she's just doing a 15-minute,
Yeah.
and she doesn't do a great big stint all at once, but I marvel at her and I'm like, why can't I get
Yes.
myself out the door and just take like a 10-minute break from whatever else I'm doing and go do
Yeah.
that and then come back in, right?
My
Um,
dad does that, at 8, he'll be 82 in July, and he'll go out and walk the driveway. And it's safe for him because he's not in uneven terrain, first off.
right.
Second off, he'll swing his arms.
That's
And I said, Dad, that's really good for you.
Yeah.
Because you kind of expect people to do that in their 80s, 90s. But heck, I'm 54 and I'm doing it. I'm like, holy crap. And the other thing that you and I talk about a lot is digestion. And let me speak to that. As a hygienist, here's what I know that I know that I know. Your digestion begins in your mouth. There's
Well,
enzymes that break down your food and
I will,
start.
as an artist, I will go one step further. When you see the food and you smell the aroma of the food, it's
Yes,
already starting. So when you're preparing your own food and you're chopping your vegetables or your
yes,
citrus or whatever, and your onion, and those aromas are releasing into
yes,
the air, it's already causing the brain to engage with and the anticipation that the
yes,
food is coming. And
yes.
then it goes into what you know about the mouth and the saliva.
Yeah. And so the fermentation process of the cabbage, just for instance, I've eaten that almost every day since it fermented to the in the cycle. It fermented to where I like to eat it. So I've refrigerated it and I've eaten it every day. But here's what I'll tell y'all, just like friend to friend, it makes a difference in your digestion. As I chewed that cabbage, it still had the squeak squeak against my teeth, which I really like that because I'm a hygienist and I always say I'm orally fixated, and I definitely am. But I made sure that I chewed it well before I swallowed it and then follow with water. It makes a difference in my digestion, and I can tell it because it's made a difference in my, let's say, bathroom habits.
Mhm.
Say that.
Well, every
And
day,
doing, and doing the whole meal, the half and half, making healthier choices, using the tallow, the coconut oil, the avocado oil in my cooking.
those are a lot
I
of
tell
changes.
I can tell a difference in what it's doing to my digestion. That's what I'll
You
say.
know, those are that's quite a list, but
Mhm.
in a way, they're kind of subtle changes. They're not,
Yeah.
they're not huge dietary, I can't eat this or whatever kind of, they're just really gentle changes.
Yes.
And it's reducing the amount of poor quality fat, and
Yes.
it's reducing the amount of chemicals. Like I
Yes.
remember some of your viewers making comments because I read all those comments. What
Sure.
are you doing putting whatever coffee creamer from the store, right? The blend of different flavored into your coffee. Like there's so many ways that you can flavor your drinks with natural one ingredient foods and get a better tasting result
Yes.
than some of those mixes that you buy. Not that I'm poo-pooing any company or anything, but we are just talking about cleaner choices.
That's right. That's
Every
right.
morning, I start my day with a lot of things that are great for the digestive tract. So, yeah, I've shown my oatmeal before, but it's never just the oatmeal. It's got chia seeds and it's got hemp hearts and I buy flax seeds whole, and then I put them in my coffee grinder to make the flax flour, and then I put that in a jar, a small jar. And those three things, hemp, chia, and flax, in the powdered form, because the seeds don't digest, they just go straight through you. So you
That's
have to
right.
pound it in the flour. All three of those are supposed to be super good to keep you regular, and regular, not once a day, regular more than once a day.
Yeah.
And add that in with oatmeal, and all of them are good for cholesterol. Now, some people prefer to start their day with protein and they might not be so much into oatmeal or whatever, but you can still include some of those things
That's
that
right.
help your digestive tract. And the other thing is that yogurt that I buy that has not had skim milk powder added back into it. So it's yogurt in the form I used to know it back in the 70s when I used to go to, I don't know, funky artist exhibits, and somebody would be there from a farm who had made their own
Right.
yogurt or whatever, and it had such a tang to it when you tasted it. And then all
Right.
the modern yogurts have all the sugary, syrupy fruit
Yeah.
stuff added into them, or they've been processed differently, and they don't have that pucker when you taste them. And so they're getting quite far away from the best effect of a
Yeah.
yogurt on your digestion. So if you can read your labels, sometimes you can find a yogurt that's better for you. And often it's that I'm stirring into my oatmeal in the
Yeah.
morning. So I'm getting a probiotic in there as well, like the sauerkraut is doing for you.
Yeah. I was going to say probiotic. The other thing that I notice when I'm seeing patients as a hygienist, especially elderly patients that are senior patients, let's say, elderly kind of sounds negative, and I don't mean this to be negative, not at all. They talk to me about that stuff. They talk to me about what food they're eating, how hard it is to chew up, because, it's important to try to keep your teeth. If you don't have natural teeth, it's also important for you to get false teeth so that you can chew and masticate enough that you're chewing your food. Because as we age, everything gets narrower. Okay. So even swallowing food can become an issue for the senior patient. So you really have to be thinking as a clinician when you're seeing patients that are seniors and have multiple problems. One, two, multiple medications. Three, what is their diet and who's fixing their food? Are they in a home where it's just they're fixing food for 300 people every meal? Or are they in the comfort of their own home with their child or their loved one caring for them and seeing to the fact that they're making food that's nutritious for the patient? So it goes farther. My job as a hygienist goes way farther. And even when I'm in a hurry or I'm trying to stay on schedule, let's say, I'm thinking all those things in my head to ask the patient. And you have to be careful what you ask and how you ask it. But the senior patients appreciate you asking those questions because digestion does begin, like you said, with the senses. But when you start physically putting food in your mouth, that's where the enzyme activity starts to break it down when you're chewing your food. So I know that was a lot of jar.
I've gone to sessions about food. Um, and they all talk about you are what you eat.
Yes.
And so the more you can put single ingredient, come from the garden, you can recognize it, you know what it looks like, you can pronounce the words. There's not a whole list of words on a late. We still have to eat some packaged, some
That's
processed
right.
food.
That's right.
But if
Let's
you
be
can
real.
start to learn how to read the labels and understand that, at least here, the amount of each item that's in the largest
Right.
quantity is the first item. And there's so many great recipes that you can make that have us, like for diabetics, for example, or for everybody. The diabetic diet is good for everyone.
Right.
Um, that have a sweetness to them, but the sweetness comes from something that's good for your health. So,
Right.
for example, if you get dates and you blend them in your food processor, and you use that as your sweetener in a recipe instead of white sugar, um, you're putting fiber into your diet through the dates. You're getting the sweetness, and then of course there's iron and other types of um, benefits from nutritionally from that food, and you still get the treat of the sweet that you've
Yeah.
made, but at least everything in the sweet is working for you instead of against you. You have to always watch how much of a carb it is. It's still going to spike your sugar because it's got sweet in it, but at least it's got a nutritional value to it instead of empty calories that come from
Right.
sugar.
I used to hear it said on that point, people would say it sticks to your bones, doesn't stick to your bones, like when you're eating a meal that's hearty and filling. And I will say this, growing up, my mom cooked and she canned when we were young. My dad started working 6 and 7 days a week. And when he did that, the garden went out the window because gardens take a lot of time. But I am learning, even at my age now, I am learning that by canning all these years and trying to um, buy beef that's been grass fed and farm raised and all that stuff, it really does help you as a whole in your body. And, we hate to talk about poop. We hate to talk about the digestion once it gets past the mouth, But as women, we do share that with one another. I hear other women sharing it with their friends or their loved ones or whatever. And it's about the overall health of the digestion and being able to excrete what we need to excrete and to keep what we need to keep in our
Yeah, it's,
bodies.
get, and it's yeah, getting the toxins out as well. When my massage therapist was working on my foot that was sore, there was crunchiness in there, and she was like, I've flushed it out by my massaging. We're going to
Right.
get those toxins out of your
That's
foot
right.
so your foot's not sore." And the
That's
same
right.
thing is true with the digestive tract, and even that gentle exercise is causing you to go to the bathroom better.
Yes. Yes. I've
Yeah.
started watching a lot of videos because I'm having a grandbaby. There a lot of videos will pop up about grandchildren, advertisements included, don't get me wrong. But I'll watch these videos of how the parents are naturally exercising the infant's legs, and then they're pushing the legs to the chest, and it's helping them get their gas out. So there's a lot to be said for what we're talking about. And I'm always about if it helps other women or other people, I don't mind talking about it. I mean, it is what it is. It's part of life. It's part of the natural way that God made us to eat our food, to excrete our food, and to move enough that we can pass our gas, let's say.
Yeah, and another thing I'll say is that I remember there was a phys ed teacher at my school, and she'd come pop in my room for a visit, and she was always like, "Come on, come over here and jump around with me," and she'd lead me through a whole bunch of exercises with a lot of movement. We get laughing and have the great time. But every time she's popped in for a visit, we didn't just stand there and chat. We had to move. And
Yes.
she was trying to get the fluids in her body from being stagnant.
Yes.
And so get that flow going. And that's part of that movement of toxins out of your body as well, is get
Flow to the flow, flow to
yeah,
the
get
flow.
your body moving. And so even if you're in a chair, can you swing your arms every time the commercials come on or whatever? If you're sitting in the same position too long, you've got to get up. If you're working and you're working at a desk or something, you've got to get up and change position. And you and I talk about this a lot, is that the days that you're working hygiene, you're often in the same position many hours in the day.
Yes. Yes.
And then you
Yeah.
tell me that when you, between patients, you go change position.
And luckily, the two offices that I'm in right now, I'm able to get up and move quite a bit because I'm, taking an x-ray, or, in some offices, they have an assistant that does that for you.
Mhm.
So you are like this all day over a patient, literally and figuratively. I really like it better in the old fashioned type offices where the hygienist is responsible for not only, checking the medical history and all that stuff that you do, and the questions that you ask, but also being able to get up and take my own x-ray because it gets me to, allows me to move. It
Yeah.
allows me to move.
When we talk about the days when you're at home, or I'm at home, right? And we talk about how when we're home, we can be cognizant and have the freedom to change
Yes.
how our body is positioned.
Yes.
So if we go into from sitting to standing, go stretch out and lay on the bed, then get up and go do the next thing, etc. So I'm seeing that our time's running out here on our ticker here, Lisa. So what a great
Yeah.
chat about all
Great
these things.
information. I'll tell you like I tell the boys. Good talk. Good
Good
talk.
talk. Yay.
Good talk.
Right on.
I'll see you, Janet.
See ya.
Bye bye.
Bye.